Hi, I'm Ernie,
And I'm Ben.
and this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Ben, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Pretty good. You're just getting back from vacation, right, Ernie?
Getting back from vacation, ready to get back into Budget Nerds.
Yes, let's do it. And we got a pretty nerdy topic. I think we're continuing our theme of software stuff, like real in the weeds here. So I think this will be a good one.
We're going to be getting into a month ahead. We talked about how to budget a month ahead way back. I think this was in November 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to do today is compare and contrast those two methods. I get this question all the time in workshops. How do I budget a month ahead? And there's the holding category, and then there's actually just moving to the next month, assigning the funds there. So we wanted to kind of break down each method, the pros and cons, and then let you, the listener, decide what works best for you.
Yeah, because I feel like the default right now, what we teach a lot is, when you get paid, always ask yourself, what does this money need to do before I get paid again? And if you funded everything for this month, just go forward and click into the software to the next month, assign money right into that month, right? And then it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it until the new month comes around, and then you have that new money available to you. But it hasn't always been that way in the software. In different versions of the software, we handled that process of actually assigning future money a lot differently.
And if we go all the way back to YNAB 4, we had that multi-month view.
Right.
And so, it was just natural to budget a month ahead. But then things started evolving and folks were utilizing these holding categories. And so that's where I eventually landed. But I started doing the month ahead, tried both methods.
Yeah. I think in an effort to simplify, because back in the YNAB 4 days, in the older, that is old software now. It's been around a long time, and no longer supported, but still a lot of folks use it. You would literally assign an inflow to a particular month, and it would only be available to assign in that month, right?
I forgot about that.
So that was like really strict. Like the months were really walled off, right? And now it's a little more fluid, and I think that was an effort to simplify the process a little bit. But I think we lost a little bit of clarity there too, because it wasn't so clear. Like, this money is for this month and only for this month, and now it's like, you can put the money in any month you want. But a lot of folks were like, I think I need to give a little more clarity by actually creating a category for next month, just a holding category. You stick the money there, and then wait until the new month actually starts, and then release that money and assign it all at once. So you've landed there, Ernie. I've gone back and forth. What's been your process? How'd you get there?
Well, just naturally, I think budgeting into that next month is a natural extension of Rule 1. You get to the end of the month and it was like, oh, I still have money available and ready to assign. What does this money need to do? Well, it needs to be for next month. So I'd go to next month and just kind of worked my way to getting that month ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I wasn't a full month ahead. Like I was trying to get there. So I didn't have a full month's worth of funds. And so I didn't feel like I needed that holding category. But then once I was that full month ahead, I don't know, it made more sense to hold off, keep the money in a holding category, and build that next month's budget all at once.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's you didn't really need you kind of have the benefit of setting it aside in the future and like not looking at it, because you do have to have a little bit of discipline. If you have that category sitting there in your current month, you have to have discipline.
Yes.
Of I'm not going to take it because I need it for next month, right? But if you put it into the next month, the way the software is now, it's really out of sight because it's forward 1 month. So that's a benefit too. For me, I've gone back and forth. In the YNAB 4 days, back in 2013, that was the only way to do it. You literally assign the money to So I would assign the category would be like in income for June or something like that, right?
Okay.
And you could only assign it in June. So that was the months were really walled off, and that's how it worked. And then with the new software, I totally embraced I would just click forward and assign the money, and I did that for the whole time until like a few months ago. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this holding category thing. And I did it for a little while, and I don't know. I didn't really see the point. I was kind of like, this is. I know there are good reasons for it, and we'll talk about that. But like, I didn't really. I just felt like I was just doing busy work in the software, which is not a bad thing for us budget nerds.
Budget nerds love that, yeah.
Right. But I think because I've been just assigning money into the future directly for so long, it just kind of felt like an extra step, And so I talked recently about how after watching one of Hannah's videos, I pulled the trigger and started budgeting 2 months ahead. So I took some money out of my prudent reserve, started budgeting 2 months ahead. And at that point, I just went back to the old method of just assigning money. So right now, okay. I have July, we're recording this at the middle of June. I have July fully funded and a little bit of August funded. So I'm a little bit ahead there. So no holding category for me right now. We'll see how it goes.
This is going to be a really good discussion because we've landed in different places, and it sounds like you're pretty passionate. I mean, what were your words exactly? You don't see the purpose or
for me
of a holding category.
It felt like busy work, but I'm going to go through our list of pros here. I recognize intellectually the the purpose of having a holding category waiting for the new month to start. There's a lot of them. So
all right, we'll see if I can convince you otherwise here.
Okay.
We'll start with holding category pros. I think one of the biggest ones is you can, at least for me, is I can see all of my money in that current month. I've got my holding category right at the top, funds for next month. And then everything below that I know is money available that I can use right now this month, and I don't have to flip back and forth between various months.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. You don't have to. You can get a full picture without having to move around at all.
Because sometimes it's just nice to be able to look at how much money do I have, and how is it organized in the various categories.
Yeah. I'm hesitant to talk about cons of my current method, so I'm gonna hold off. But I have lots of thoughts are coming to mind already, so we'll get there.
All right, another pro of the holding category is it gives you an idea of how much you have and need for next month. So when that last paycheck of the month goes into that holding category, I just like looking at that number, that finite number. Okay, we have X amount of dollars that we can use next month. And I just kind of always know that's the number that I'm, if I'm thinking through a budget template or, just how much do we spend or need for a particular month, I've got that amount right there.
Okay, this is a good point. All right, maybe, golly, I'm being convinced again. This is
because I mean, if you're going to the future, do you know off the top of your head how much you need to fund everything?
Well, I have to go forward into a month where I don't have anything funded. Because right now, so if I wanted to know, okay, what's the total of my template? What's the total of my underfunded? I couldn't see it in July. I couldn't see it in August because I have some money there. I'd have to go all the way into September just to see that number, right?
1, 2, 3 clicks.
Yeah. And that you're right. That is a really good point. And also, there's a little bit of weirdness there because, okay, this is getting real in the weeds of the software, but that's what we do. So like, if I have a category that is like a savings category, like say I have something like Christmas. Okay, let's do that. Christmas as an example. Okay. Let's say I'm putting $50 a month aside every month for Christmas, right? So July's fully funded. If in August I haven't funded the Christmas category yet, and I click forward to September, that target for September is going to be larger because it's saying, oh, you haven't budgeted for August, and so you need to play catch up, right?
Yes.
And so I might not get a completely accurate underfunded number because of that. So yeah, that's a good point there, Ernie.
and there are a lot of folks who that use the budget template, they want to the penny that underfunded amount to match their income.
Well, I'm one of those people, Ernie. I
used to
do
be.
it to the penny too. I mean, not to the penny. I do have the margin, which was one of our very first episodes. If you want to go back way back when the production quality was, we were like on a Zoom screen. It was terrible. But if you want to go way back to our margin episode, I do have that like $300 margin that I've kept, and that's like give or take like $50 here and there. So it's not exact, but it's pretty close. And yeah, I'm fixing to have a really big budget change because we hired a new nanny. We're going to need to pay her more because the market's shifted quite a bit in the time that we've had our old nanny. And yeah, I'm going to need to like make a bunch of changes to my budget. So I need that accurate underfunded number to make changes, you know? So man, Ernie, you're convincing me. All right, let's keep going because we're going to get to the in the future pros here soon. So
Number 3.
Maybe I'll swing back.
With a holding category, you get to build that next month's budget all at once.
That is nice.
I love that. I don't like doing it paycheck by paycheck. Not that there's anything wrong, but there's just something so satisfying about sitting down for a 15, 20, 45-minute budgeting session, right? No, not the bubble bath. That's the end of the month. Oh, right.
That's the day before, and then the next day. Right. Excuse me.
Yeah, you can't do those budget with me sessions if you're doing the in the future.
Yeah, and you're still doing that, Ernie. You did it on Instagram at the beginning of
I've done 2 of them now.
Yeah. And you did one on YouTube.
I do it in
Instagram.
real life. I just don't always record it.
Right. So if you want to watch Ernie in his real budget, if you haven't already, there's a recording on YouTube. Just search like YNAB budget with me, Ernie. I don't know. You'll find it. It'll be on our YouTube channel. And you did one on Instagram too, live, like completely live, which blew my mind. You like pointed your phone at your screen.
It was a wonky setup, but somehow it worked. I think folks liked it. But
I think it's great.
Yeah, I love sitting down and just building that entire month's budget in one session.
Yeah. You know, this is a difference between how you and I budget because you go in line by line and type it out, right? Yep. I just hit that underfunded button straight up. Like I trust those targets fully. So my process of assigning money is over in 10 seconds.
But don't you have, I get it for the bills, right? That's not going to change. But what about some of those more variable categories or the true expenses?
It's the same.
Is there any thought that goes into that?
The thought is all when I set the targets, which I change from time to time. And then I don't think about it again at all. I just hit the underfunded and it
Do you ever feel like you're at risk of putting more money in a category than what you need?
No, because I'll look at the available amounts from time to time. And be like, oh, this has too much in it. But honestly, my true expenses have gotten so dialed in at this point. Like I don't ever have too much in auto maintenance. And I rarely have too little, although I say that I did have too little recently, but that's because of reasons. Anyways, some stuff's going on in my car. Let me tell you about it sometime. There was a wreck that I didn't think caused any problems. Turns out 2 years down the road, it did cause some problems. Anyways, so that's the whole thing. But it's kind of dialed in. So I don't think I ever really have too much. But I do check it from time to time. Be like, and I have moved a few things. But I just feel really good about my target. So I just set that in front of the amount and just go for it.
And maybe part of it too for me is I don't fund every single category every month. So right. I need to actively think through each category. And I'm thinking, outside of the bills.
Totally, yeah.
And think through, okay, here's what's available. Here's what I have to assign and just making decisions based on that finite amount.
Yeah. You and I have a very different view of the template as far as how rigid it is.
Yep.
And and sometimes I liked your idea. I didn't make any changes because, I can't go making willy-nilly budget changes. I have to think about it for 2 years. Right?
Of course.
But I remember you talking about that. I think it was like last November. It's been a while where you talked about how you set the target, but you don't necessarily hit the target every month. on everything. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, you know? But yeah, so far, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I don't see the point in having the holding category, because when I get a paycheck, I click forward to next month, or now 2 months ahead, and just hit underfunded. And I don't even select categories. I just hit the underfunded button and it automatically assigns it wherever it wants.
Wow.
And I know by the end of the month, I'll fully fund it with all my paychecks, right? So I don't even care where it goes first, because it's not for 2 months that I need to worry about it. I know it's going to be taken care of. So now if there was a problem and I needed to, I could, you know, move all that up to ready to assign and do it manually. But I don't even, the assigning process is just automated.
That's funny. You would have the world's shortest budget with me sessions. Hi, I'm Ben. One click. Thanks for budgeting with me.
If I did budget with me, which I don't know if I ever will, because my wife might murder me for showing all that to the world. But also, I might. I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable. Maybe one day. We'll see.
No one would have a chance to see your numbers. It would be a 5-second video.
I would have to change how I do it. I'd have to like. Yeah, but yeah, it was just that would be really funny, Ernie. If I did a budget with me, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna budget everything. Here we go. Underfunded. Click. I'm done. Bye, everybody. See you later. Yeah.
Next year's April Fool's video, right there.
Oh, that would be really funny. That would be. Because that would be kind of a different way of doing it, and like showing, oh, hey, look how easy this is, you know, because we have done all these things in the software to make it faster for folks, and underfunded is one of those features, and a lot of folks use it. I mean, sound off in the comments. Let us know if you do that. Do you type it out manually, or do you hit that underfunded button? And or do you do a mix? Like maybe you use underfunded for your bills that are always the same, and then a little bit of both. But I don't know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, we created these fast things in software, but a lot of folks don't want to use them because it's not as fun, right? As fun. And it has been a long time since I literally just typed it out. And maybe I should, because there is even if it's all the numbers end up being the same, I think there's a argument for awareness, be like, oh man, I'm putting that much in there, every month. Because I might not be as aware because I set the target and I don't change that target for maybe 6 months, So
I'm constantly telling folks in our live workshops to know your plan, know where you stand. And by going category by category, it really helps me absorb what the plan actually is, because I don't check on the category balance before I spend all the time. I've been using YNAB 10 years. I got this general idea.
Yeah.
But by doing this once a month very intentionally, it kind of reminds me
aware.
Of what that plan is.
Do you find yourself changing targets like willy-nilly on the fly while you do it? Like you're like, oh, actually I don't feel good about how much I'm putting there. Let's change the target.
Every so often. Yeah, okay. I'm very on the fly. Like I feel something. I'm like, let's just make that change.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think this might be a difference between you and Chrissy's relationship and mine and Caitlin's, our wives, because as far as like the way you manage the budget, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, like you do more of the budget management and including the targets, right?
Absolutely.
And for me, I do most of the reconciling and entering transactions and all that. But if I'm going to change a target, that is a discussion. Like that's a whole process, right? And we like make all those decisions together. Okay. And like maybe that's on me. Like maybe I'm what feels away, and Caitlin might not care. I'll have to ask her about that. That'd be interesting. But I think that might be one reason why I don't change those targets on the fly, because it would need to be like a big discussion. And also because it matches our income so exactly. If I raise one target, I need to lower another target. And so I would there'd be a sacrifice that we need to discuss. So we call them permanent budget changes as opposed to like, on the fly budget changes. So.
All right. Final pro that I could think of is using that holding category gives the needed for spending targets a chance to recalculate. So as they work right now, if you're in the current month and you have money left over in a category, you flip over to that future month, and that weekly target or that monthly needed for spending target is going to tell you that you need the full amount for that next month.
Yes, that is.
Because it doesn't actually recalculate, it doesn't take into consideration what's left over until the first of that next month. And so, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but because I rarely have money left over in things like groceries, gas, eating out. So I can always assume those are eventually going to get down to zero. So I could put money in the future month, as it arrives in the current month. But I just like knowing that on the first of whatever month I'm in, everything is recalculated.
Yeah, and this is a quirk in the software that is really a trade-off. Like there's all sorts of stuff in software design where you have to make a trade-off one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because we could have made it so, okay, the top-up amount is always it would calculate that even before the month begins. But then you run the risk of people budgeting too little in the future, not enough. And that is way worse than budgeting too much most of the time, right? And so we decided, okay, we need to wait until the first to do those calculations and then do it. But then people had the same problem. So like, I feel like this has run away from us as far as the software goes, because a lot of folks ask. So at the beginning, when the new YNAB started and targets began, we didn't have this kind of top up target type, right? You just set the target and it was the same every month, no matter what you spent in the previous month. And by very popular demand, we said, okay, let's do this thing where if you don't fully spend a category and some rolls over, you don't have to fully fund that category the next month. You just have to kind of top it up to a certain amount. But it caused all sorts of other problems, right? Where it's like, okay, what do we do about this trade-off? Where, when do we do the calculation? And then also, what about when people overfund these categories? And so we created an auto-assign button called reduce overfunding that would solve that problem, right? But yeah, it's just one thing led to another, and I think there's a way maybe we can look at it and make it better. But yeah, it definitely is a quirk in the software that helps. It's a benefit of waiting and doing the holding category method instead.
So if you're someone who uses the needed for spending weekly, needed for spending monthly a lot and have available funds left over on a regular basis, I think the holding category would probably be more beneficial to you.
Yeah, for sure. Although I will say now, I think focus views should be out by the time we let this podcast out. And there's a little overfunded focus view thing filter, I guess, a view for overfunded categories, and that kind of highlights the categories that are overfunded a little more, because before that you couldn't really see it visually. You'd have to go through category by category to find a category that's overfunded. And so I found that to be really helpful, actually, because it's like, if I see overfunded there at the top, I'm like, I have some categories that are overfunded. Let's look at them, and I can make decisions on whether I want to move that money. So it kind of brings it a little more to the front, which I really like. That's a really big benefit of focus views.
I'm glad you dropped that focus views teaser, because that's going to be our next episode.
Yes, that's right. We're going to talk about that.
So folks, start thinking and experimenting with those focused views, because we want to hear how you use them.
Yeah. We wanted to wait a little bit and see what the community did with it, because I mean, there's going to be so many things that we haven't ever thought of, and we'll do a wrap up of how people are using it right now. All
right, let's move on to the cons of the holding category. First one we've briefly mentioned, but paydays just aren't as fun. Money lands in the account, goes to ready to assign. I drop it in the holding category. I'm done.
You get your fun at the beginning of the next month.
Yes.
But you give up the fun every payday.
It's delayed gratification. I have to go through 4 or 5 paychecks every single month and just say, nope, not right now.
Let's put it straight to, that's true. There is something really satisfying about building the next month as you go. So there's a lot there.
Another con is you might be tempted to spend that money. This is something that I've heard from a number of YNABers. Having it in the holding category, it just feels like it's free money to them. Now, that's never been the case for me. I mean, I don't know. I've been able to wall it off and basically make it untouchable. But I get it. For other folks, that may be a legitimate concern. And so if that's you, move it to the future month. Don't utilize that holding category.
Yeah, this is another specific to the software kind of thing, it's amazing how much our mindset is based on the UI and the software, right? Because you can't, once you put it in the future month, you can't see it unless you actually go into the month and look at it. So, and it's just not available to you to see it. But yeah, if you have that big old number there of almost a month's income, and you're rolling with the punches and you're getting a little tight, it's getting to the end of the month and you got $3 in dining out, it'd be pretty tempting to be like, let's make that a future Ben problem, right? And take the money from, because you're going to have really what that's doing is you're delaying contending with your overspending.
Yeah.
Because you're going to deal with it now, or you're going to deal with it next month when you don't have enough to fully fund the entire month, right? And it might not be a big deal if it's like $10, but if it's like $300 or $500 or whatever, it can eat up a lot pretty quick. So there's a lot there.
All right, those are the holding category pros and cons. What do we miss? Let us know in the comments. So now we can move on to in the future. We'll start with the pros. Ben, you want to take that first one?
Sure, yeah. So pros of budgeting money straight to the future right when you get it, instead of setting it in a holding category and letting it sit for a while, is your dollars always have specific jobs. It kind of feels like you're following rule 1 a little more closely because you are always assigning it to specific categories instead of kind of a amorphous next month kind of thing. Now, I'm not sure I follow this, though, and the way I do it, I've had the little confession where I don't think about which categories need to be funded first in that future month, because I just hit the underfunded button,
sure,
and YNAB does it for me. I mean, YNAB's doing a pretty good job of kind of auto prioritizing based on the targets that I set, but I don't even know what it does, because I just know it's going to be fully funded before the month begins, right? So yeah, maybe, but I think it might make you a little more aware because you're actually doing the act of assigning more often, and you might be more aware of like, okay, with this first paycheck, I'm going to take care of this category and this category and this category, and you're like, okay, these are actually my priorities, right? So you kind of remind yourself what's the first priority more often that way. I think
this would be super beneficial to new YNABers, where they're new to the YNAB method, still trying to get a feel for rule 1, give every dollar a job. Yeah, budget to the next month, assign to the next month, because then you can see, here's what all of my money needs to do very specifically.
Yeah. Next one, next month's dollars are quote unquote protected. We've already talked about this. It's out of sight, out of mind, so if you have a problem with being tempted to steal that money from that you really need for a future month, just stick it in next month and you won't have to worry about it,
And just to give folks a visual on this, well, I'm going to explain it, but you can imagine it in your mind. So if you paid the mortgage this month, there's 0 available in the category. But then you assign that money to July mortgage, $1,600. When you go back to June, the current month, you're not going to have $1,600 available. Right. So that's what we mean by protected. You're not going to see those future dollars available in the current month.
Yeah. They're available in the future month, but it just shows less available right now, which is a good thing, I think, because it's not really available to spend this month, and that's what you're looking at. Next pro for budgeting straight to the future: you stay engaged with the budget.
I don't know if that's true for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is.
Because of how you budget
I'm kind
with
of like
auto-assign.
worst of both worlds right now.
But what I was thinking when I wrote this and was thinking through it, you're flipping over the next month and you're going category by category. So you are staying engaged with what you currently have available and what you will have at the turn of the month.
Yeah. Easier to roll with the punches when you want to involve next month's money. Okay, this is an interesting one.
Because this is something that I just ran into over vacation. We, no surprise, overspent in the vacation category by quite a bit, like $500. So what I did, because I'm utilizing the holding category, is we put $200 aside every single month for trips. I took $200 out of my holding category and moved it to trips. So
I
now
see
in
where it's going.
July, I'm not going to be funding the July trips category.
But you have to remember that.
But I have to remember that.
Right.
And so if I had been budgeting a month ahead, I would just go to July, take the money out, so it'd be zero. So then I would see, oh, I have all these other true expenses covered, but I've zeroed out trips. Oh yeah, that's why, because I took that money out and I moved it back to June.
Right. Okay. I can see that. There is still a problem with it though, because you might not remember, because the month isn't fully funded until the month begins, right? So you might have to get another paycheck and you might forget again.
Very true.
Right. So yeah, there's still an issue with that. Probably what I would do if I were in your exact shoes. Again, this is details in the software. I would cancel the target in July by clicking forward into August, saving the target there. So like this is a little nerdy trick, guys. If you want to like skip a target one month, and I literally just did this recently. You can click forward into the future month. Just hit edit on the target and save it. And what'll happen is it saves the target for that month, but it removes the target in the previous month, right? Now you need to be careful with this, okay? Because if it's like if it's a target where you're like trying to build up, and you could mess with the math a little bit, but especially for something that's like a just like a savings target, like a just put in the same amount every month kind of target. It's not that big a deal, but yeah, use this wisely. But that's a kind of a way to like pause a target, and this is a workaround in the software. I hope one day we could add like a way to more formally like pause a target, because you never want to see like yellow in the category when you know why it's yellow and you're not going to fund it. You kind of need to be like, just skip this month.
I wonder if I'll end up doing that, because I don't like seeing yellow, and now I have to go all July with a yellow trips category.
Right. Yeah. And that nobody wants that. I mean, because it kind of like nags at you, right? And you're like, I know why it's yellow, because we took a bigger trip in June. You just grabbed that money from there.
The reason I didn't originally delete the category or the target in July is because I'm so detail oriented. There's no way I was going to forget to not fund July.
Ernie
So I'm just like,
himself.
I know myself, and it's not going to happen.
You'll remember, especially for something that big, because that's like, if it's like $10 at dining out or something like that, you might forget that. But if you're talking $200,
right? Yeah, it was the entire category amount.
Yeah, because dealing with a $500 overspend is like, that sticks in your mind, man. That's a big deal.
Right. I felt like I did something wrong.
You felt like you were cheating a little bit.
Yes, I'm like, is this something I can even talk about on Budget Nerds, because it's not correct budgeting? But yeah, I've never done that before. It is
correct budgeting, because you just said what you did was you gave up saving for a future trip in July to spend it in June, and that's fine. Like,
and the only reason I did it is because I know it's the month after vacation. We're not doing anything in July.
Yeah, and it's going to be a while before you go on another vacation. You'll have time to save up. And
there's going to be some windfalls in the future, with profit sharing, possibly third paychecks. And so I know there's going to be opportunities to fund it back up when we'll actually start wanting to use it again in the fall and the winter. But yeah, I still felt super guilty when I pulled it out of the next month category.
I can see that. Or it's just like, oh, this is evil. But yeah, it's not. It's not. It's totally fine. There's so many things like that where it's so funny, because we have these. It's just out of your routine, and so it feels wrong.
Those arbitrary rules that we've created for ourselves,
and
right?
They break because they're arbitrary. You're like, yeah, because you make a rule for yourself, and you're like, this is a rule because it's a rule, and then you're like, oh wait, I forgot, it's arbitrary. I can do what I want. But you still feel guilty. That's fine.
All right, let's move to in the future cons.
Okay, all right.
And this might not be the case for you, but I threw it out there.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ernie. Okay, Ernie wrote, you can build up more money than what you need in categories. Like the needed for spending targets don't have a chance to recalculate. Yeah, that we talked about that already. That can be a problem where you end up with a bunch of overfunded categories. And if you don't go through and look at that overfunded amount and kind of reassess, yeah, you might be assigning money where you could assign it better somewhere else, right?
And I remember a YNABer recently wrote in and mentioned this to us. That was their win, that they almost got on autopilot with assigning money in the future, and then they kind of realized, oh, we have all this excess and like coffee.
It was in their wasn't it in their credit card? I want to say. Oh, we might be thinking of two different users. I think one user had a bunch of cash back on their credit card, and their credit card payment category ended up being overfunded, and I think it was like $1,600, and they realized it because like it had been cash back that had been building, and then they finally looked at what the available amount in the credit card was, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have way too much in here. And it was kind of a fun. It was like a mistake, but it was like a fun mistake because they found all this extra money.
Yeah, the one
you're talking about somebody else.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of just was assigning money in the future and kind of built up these really extravagant balances in some of these fun categories, and realized, I could use money for something else.
Yeah. All right. Another big con is it's really just a quirk of the software. I'm using that phrase a lot here lately because we're getting real into the details on the software, but it's really easy to kind of lose visibility on your true ready to assign number, because what happens is your most accurate ready to assign number is in the furthest a month ahead that you budget. And so sometimes if you budget in future months, the ready to assign number can go negative if you assign money in the current month that you don't actually have, right?
Right. So going back to my vacation example, if I had assigned $200 into the trips category in July, but then in June, I'm like, I overspent by $500. Let me just take the $200 in July, and I would just assign $200 more. Right. Then what's going to happen is my ready to assign in July is going to go negative.
Yeah. And this is a problem we run into sometimes where folks look over and be like, oh my gosh, I have some negative stuff. And then you need to do some work to reduce it. And we've added a few indicators in the software to let you know about that, which I think is a really good solution for now. But if you only assign money in the current month and you don't assign anything into the future, that ready to assign number is always going to be accurate. So you don't have to worry about, stealing from the future there. So that is an issue that I think it's probably one of the biggest reasons to keep everything in the current month, is that particular issue where it's like things can get fuzzy. And this is another thing too about budgeting even more than 1 month ahead. Things get like fuzzier and fuzzier the further you go, Yeah. I was talking to Erin about this. She also budgets 2 months ahead. So she's budgeting for August with her June paychecks right now. Same thing I'm doing. And she's like, don't go any further. Like, it just gets weird the further you go because you kind of lose visibility. I mean, I can budget money in September, but I don't know what September is going to be like exactly. It starts, the further ahead you go, the fuzzier the future gets, right? And so that's another thing where it just gets a little bit tedious because you have to click forward and to make changes, and it affects previous months, and you're all over the place. So yeah, general rule is no more than 2 months ahead, unless you have super variable income. I mean, there's folks that get paid like twice a year, and it's like, just budget that out so you know what you're doing, Or you could put that in a holding category too. That's also an option. But
that's the thing. I was thinking of a hybrid model. You use both.
Yeah, you could totally do that. There's a lot of ways to do it. Yeah, you could actually. Oh yeah, man. You could budget for next month and then park the rest in a holding category that month. Or kind of always be 1 month ahead.
I'm thinking the way my budget is set up, I could budget into the future month for the bills, the fixed expenses, like the necessities, the things that I know I'm going to be paying for that month. And then all the other categories have a little bit of flexibility. So I park those in the holding category. And then at the first of the next month, I make actual decisions about what that money needs to do.
Right.
Do both.
Yeah, I want to hear what the budget nerds have to say about this, because I'm sure all of you, there's probably as many ways to do this as there are people watching or listening to this right now. So I'd love to hear how you handle it, especially if you have like a really interesting like variable income situation. I'd like to see, how you deal with. Do you do holding categories? Do you do budgeting straight into the next month? Do you do a little of both? A little bit of a hybrid thing? Love to hear it.
And if you're listening to the podcast, email us, budgetnerds@ynab.com.
Okay, Ernie, where have I landed here? Because I've gone back and forth lots of times. Maybe if I try the budget with me method where I don't use the underfunded, and just go through it line by line, which I think that might be fun for me. And I think you're right. I think it will bring more awareness. Maybe if I do it that way, I would see the benefit a little more of doing the holding category method. Because I feel like it's winning out as far as the pros and cons, so long as you're very aware of what you're doing, right? So maybe I'll try it again, Ernie. I don't know.
I'm not convinced, Ben.
You know what? I mean, I feel like I have to do it right now, or I'm not going to do it. Like, it's one of those things. Like, if I let myself think about this for more than like an hour, then I just won't do it. So I could, maybe I'll do a hybrid here. Okay, here's an interesting idea. Since I'm budgeting 2 months ahead right now, maybe I could leave July fully funded, but August money, put that in a holding category. I don't know. That feels like the worst of both worlds, actually.
All right. Well, whatever you decide, keep us posted.
I'll let you know.
All right. Before we let you go, we want to share a couple of YNAB wins with you.
Who's all your mind?
All right, my first YNAB win comes from Anne Marie, who wrote in a comment on the Simplify Your Budget episode a while back. Anne Marie wrote, "Here is my latest YNAB win. We realized this month that we will be short on our taxes when we file this year." Boo, lame. Never fun. We could avoid a penalty from the tax man by making an estimated payment. It feels large to us before mid-January. Because we've been using YNAB and saving to get 3 to 6 months ahead, we were able to reallocate some of those funds to make the estimated payment. Now we can change our withholding for the coming year, so we'll be prepared for next time. No need to lose any sleep. Thank you, YNAB. Oh, I love that. There's so many things going on there because, first of all, I love that no need to lose any sleep because this is something that would just... this is something that would just haunt me pre-YNAB. I know for sure. But also, because they were aware of what they were doing and because they had a method for handling it, they were able to save money in the future, right? And because they had the cash to deal with the problem. So this is an example of, if you budget and you have some cash available to you, you can actually save money in the future by avoiding penalties or fees and things like that. So how cool is that? Love that.
Yeah, well done, Anne Marie. My win comes from Jenna L. Jenna emailed in, "I went for a holiday shopping spree with one of my good friends today. I knew that I could trust myself and my budget, so I went into the day confidently. I am home now, entering all my receipts for the day, and even though I did have to do a little whamming, I finished the day with 0 overspent categories, and I still have money left over in my Christmas category. Money always ruins the holidays for me, but this is the first year ever I don't feel stressed out about it. Thank you, YNAB." Love that, Jenna. Who says that budgets have to be restrictive? Jenna went on a shopping spree.
Yeah, she said it's shopping spree.
Shopping spree, and the budget held up. It's just fine.
I love that. And I love that this is the first time ever you don't feel stressed about the holidays. How cool is that?
Huge win.
Well, we got a lot of wins because I think we're sitting here. I think both these wins are from like December. So
so long ago.
So we're working through them, but keep them coming. We and even if you just want to email us or leave a comment just to chat, we do read all of them, and we'd love to get back to you.
All right. Until next time, happy budgeting.
Happy budgeting.